Hi and welcome back to Recruitment and Beyond podcast. It's 2024, an exciting year ahead hopefully, but I know there's going to be a few changes in terms of HR over the next 12 months, so we thought we'd take a wee bit of time just to go through them and have a chat through them. So Natalie, what does 2024 have in store in terms of HR? Tell us all about it.
2024 will be a great year in the way, maybe not when everyone thinks about the number of changes, but actually all the stuff that we've been talking, hearing about are actually coming into play.
Yeah.
Which is great. Some will be very welcome by businesses, other will be listening to this podcast episode and maybe choosing to ignore and pretend that they don't know the changes. But there's quite a lot happening this year, which is good. Yeah, quite a lot.
So do you want to start with flexible working then? So I know that's
one of the...
We've had an episode, we've talked about this endlessly, but changes are coming now, aren't they? So
absolutely, and we're in a new world. We won't mention the big C word, but we are in a new world. Flexible working has been embraced or is getting put in the bin for other organisations as well.
I noticed that,
so what we're looking at is now it's going to be a day one, right? So before you would have had to have had 26 week service before you could apply for flexible working, but anyone now on day one can just request. Remember, there's no right, but they can request. So there could be the scenario you advertise your position, recruitment's harder now, you spend all the time getting your person in place. They have their 3-day induction and then day 4 they say, Ewan, I'd like to work 4 days a week, or I'd like to work 3 days a week, or I would like condensed hours, etc. So I'm not too sure how this will play out.
Okay, so people are just going to have to accept that that's the request that could come in after the first day or the second day?
Absolutely. So it's just something for business owners to be aware of. And I guess that probably would be quite frustrating if you've advertised a role, you spend a lot of time getting someone and like you say, it's challenging now to recruit, so it's actually a challenge to get people in, and once they come in they can just change the goalposts. But that's the nature of the law now, and that's what's coming in. Absolutely. So remember, it's just a request. There's no right. Yeah. Okay. So there's no right. There's still there are legal reasons for declining, etc. But you might still have that. But just for us to be aware in 2024 that there might be quite a bit of an influx in terms of flexible working requests. 2 as well in 12 months now. So an employee would just have had the 1. But they have up to 2 requests now in 12 months because things change, for example. So they could, for example, make a request for 4 days, and then the next request could be, can I finish at 3 o'clock every one of those 4 days? So I guess businesses can't ignore the fact that it maybe isn't such a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 workplace anymore, and how do we work around that? So we're helping lots of businesses kind of think about these things and how does the new workforce kind of work around, and it's just preparation to actually get the job done still. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. You still have to still have to deliver, and I think you have to be mindful of ensuring that your employees feel valued and be part of the process. But as a business, you still have to be, and I suppose, like you say, it's a right, but it's a request. It's not a right. It's still a request. So you can still say, look, actually, it just doesn't work for our business. Now that can have an impact because they can say, well, actually, that's not accepting, or actually,
I've
got a disabled child at home, or I'm a carer and I'm looking for, I've got other responsibilities, and you'll get the best out of me if I'm in the frame of mind for work, and that best looks like 3 days. You can pay me for 5, but I'm mentally switched off because I'm thinking about everything else. So there are pros and cons, I guess, to think about. The 2 requests, and then normally you'd have 3 months from start to finish for that process, but now a business owner has 2 months, including any appeal as well in that process. So kind of more emphasis to get through the decision quicker as well.
Including the appeal has to be done within 2 months?
2 months. Jeez, that's a long one. So quite a lot happening.
Really busy.
And then we throw in holiday pay, which has been chatted about for years, and we've got this case that says this and this other case that says the opposite. But now we are at the stage, confirmation from the government to say actually this is how it should be calculated. So we're looking at those that are working overtime on a regular basis. They plough in the hours, they maybe have a 40-hour-a-week contract, but they work 60 hours every week. When they take holidays, they actually earn less than had they been at work. So what happens there is they're overworked in terms of they're tired because they don't want to take holidays.
They get paid less.
They get paid less. They don't want to take holidays. So they're working away, and then maybe accidents happen because they're so tired and they're not getting their rest and recuperation from their hours, from their holidays. So obviously that problem was looked at and it's to do with the money, so an average of the last 52 weeks has to be calculated,
Right.
which is an admin nightmare for any business, no matter how large you are. Anytime someone takes a holiday,
Yeah.
you need to calculate the average weekly earnings over the last 52 weeks.
Right.
It's not great for the logistics.
So is that something that obviously somebody gets straight away when they come in, that's going to be the layout?
Yeah,
of
if
their
they're
holiday?
working regular overtime,
Then that's what has to
paid
happen.
overtime,
Yeah.
then that has to happen.
Wow, okay. And businesses will be, so you've got to put processes in place to really work out what holiday pay is going to be.
Yeah, what does that look like for people, and where is that money coming from as well? Like, have you paid that before?
Yeah.
So businesses are asking, help us here, like what is that going to cost us, and how do we factor that in? But that's what should be happening, and of course there'll be businesses that are shutting their ears. Natalie, thanks, but we don't want to hear that.
Natalie, don't tell me that.
Thanks very much, Beyond HR, for giving the great advice, but we actually don't want to know that. But there would be kind of repercussions what that looks like as well if you don't pay correctly.
And that's the same for, I suppose, if you're a contractor, or if is that the same? Is that?
It would be different, because would a contractor generally have any holiday pay, etc., self-employed? All of that is a whole other kettle of fish.
Fair enough.
From today, but our employees that are working that regular overtime, that we maybe only have it might not even be that it's not what they're contracting, what they're doing in practice. It might just be a big influx of work that you've got that you couldn't have ever planned for, and they're doing overtime.
They're still having to do overtime, so then that impacts on their holiday pay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what the whole point in this was that if you earn less than you're at work, that's not great. You should be earning the same whether you're on holiday or whether you're at work, so that you're encouraged to take your holidays, you have the rest and recuperation, and then you get more productive people, and people don't have as many accidents because they're so tired and overworked.
And is that a law? Is that?
Yeah, that's government consultations, and that's in from January, so it's already in place. All before now it was all case law. Without boring you with the detail, the legislation is massive and would take ages to change, and things like COVID have prevented all of that from happening, of course, but that's what should happen. If any business was to call us for advice, that would be the advice that we would be giving to rectify.
So what about those that are on what you might class as unstable
contract? That brings us to our next change as well. So Ewan starts, we give you a 0 hours contract, but every week you work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and you think, right, okay, that's a wee bit of a pattern here. You will at some point in this year as well have the chance to knock the door and say, can I have that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday as a contract now, a more stable, predictable working pattern, really.
Right, okay. So that's something new that's come in just now, or is that?
Yeah, that's coming. So that's for casual workers, 0 hours, any kind of irregular workers to have that, and you can maybe see where that.
And what difference would it make to have that stable contract? Is that then, that doesn't make you an employee? That just says I've got a stable, set contract.
It all depends. Are you a worker? Are you, again, a whole other topic? But the main thing is there would be some kind of stability for them. And again, it's only a request. It's not a right as well.
Oh, right, okay.
There would be some reasons, but maybe it's going to be hard if you've given someone for the last 3 years every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and they ask for a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday contract, that you decline that. What is the reason? You've got to think about that. So when we're looking at these like 0 hours, I would always say, is there actually weeks that there are 0 hours, and mix it up a wee bit, so that it's what's written down is actually what you do in practice. Weeks of 0 hours, it's all over the place, it fluctuates, it's down, all different days, random. That's effectively what a 0 hours contract would be in practice.
Okay. And I noticed you chatted before about changes for expectant mothers and potential changes around redundancy protection for those that are expectant or those who have just had a child. Is that right?
Yeah, there'll be a certain period of time at the moment it's protected. That's going to be extended now. So, for
what's
example,
the time just now, or what was it?
What we're looking at now would be for those that are expecting. And also 18 months after the baby's born as well. So that's quite a long span.
Yeah.
There would be a period of time at the moment, but that has now expanded. And that would mean, for example, if you're in a redundancy situation and there is maybe an alternative position, then potentially that employee may be offered that position.
Right, okay.
Rather as first dibs, really, as
so that's part of the protection essentially for you. Right,
absolutely.
okay.
So it's just extended as well now, not just for the maternity leave period, but
actually once.
And after 18 months after the baby's born, so it's quite a long period of time actually for someone. So that's quite a change to be aware of.
I mean,
as
it's a
well.
positive thing for obviously for
Absolutely.
mothers, but
it's just employers to be mindful of this, that
Exactly.
actually it's 18 months after the baby's born as well. So some people might put a redundancy process off until someone comes back to work, because quite rightly so. Should we be making them redundant then when we don't know they're off for 52 weeks, up to 52 weeks? Well, we know what the business looks like in 52 weeks, so let's wait till they come back. But actually they're still included in that protection as well.
Further 18 months after.
For 18 months after the birth of the baby.
And obviously this is always a tricky subject, but sexual harassment has changed as well, hasn't it? The kind of the legal duty around for employees.
That'll be more towards the end of the year, but at the moment it's best practice. It's what we should be doing. There will be legislation, what we must do, and I guess let's be honest, we don't think about it until something happens in the workplace. I know. And that's really where we are at this moment in time. That won't stand in the future.
Really?
What we'll be looking at the second half of the year would be, we're trying to prevent that from happening. So you don't need a claim, you don't need any grievances, you don't need anything. What steps do you have in place to prevent these things happening?
Right,
so it's more kind of proactive rather than the reactive. We've got something, what have you legally, what have you done, to try and show that you're taking this seriously and preventing this. But actually we swing now to what are you going to do so that we don't have these cases, we don't have these claims, training managers, providing training, policies and everything else in between as well. So quite a focus specifically on sexual harassment towards the end of this year.
For companies to really put in place these things proactive, to be proactive about it, to try and avoid...
Stop these things happening.
To
stop these, rather than probably what most
just wait
companies...
until it happens.
It happens and then, we best train our managers, we best revise or create policy if we don't have one in the first place, to get it in place as well. Lots happening.
There's lots happening.
And then we throw in carers leave, so those, and this has been ongoing. Everyone will have heard, obviously, the nature of a carer and what that might look like, juggling that with working life as well. So 1 week's unpaid every year. So that'll be a day one right as well. So when someone starts, if they fall under the criteria of the carer, they will have 1 week's unpaid leave every year to help with whether that might be taken to appointments, to providing someone else in the family a bit of respite and they'll take over, etc. So for a carer, that's probably a good step forward. For businesses, how does that work? How do we fit that in? Is something that they'll have to be able to navigate and
They're
work
just going to
around.
have to provide for that, aren't they? They're going to have to understand that's coming. Right, okay.
Absolutely.
And the last thing is that you mentioned was about tips. For those that are working in the service industry, the tips that come forward, obviously it's a bit of a contentious issue, isn't it?
It's a big change, and it's what should probably be happening right now, but there will be much more stamped down on employees getting 100% of that tip. So it's hard on business. Business owners are maybe taking 20% of those tips for increasing gas and electricity bills, for increasing other items, helping towards replacement furniture, whatever that may be. But that tip should be 100% for those employees, and 100% should be going to those employees as well. So we'll get to the stage where there will have to be a written policy written, of course it's going to be written, a policy written for employees on receiving tips and how you're going to go about that, etc. And watch this space for probably some kind of code of conduct coming out as well, in terms, I guess, for hospitality, for anyone in the service industry. That will probably be a massive step forward, really.
Wow. There's lots going on. There's lots
happening, but again, but it's all stuff that's been chatted about for years, so it's good that it's actually coming in place. Many business owners might not say so, depending on some of the moves, but we move with flexibility. We need to think of the money pots in terms of holiday pay and giving more time out of businesses for carers, more protection for redundancy, etc. So, and then that focus on sexual harassment, and then already talk about maybe what's coming next year that we might not be able to put through this year. Another big step would be about the non-compete clauses that are in, which very topical, non-compete clauses for any restrictions after employment or during employment being restricted to 3 months. So that's a massive, nobody's really happy about that change in terms of what that might look like. Whether
and that's
that comes
in discussion just now, is it? Or?
And whether that comes in this year or whether that's next year as well.
So restrict that to 3 months?
Yeah, we're probably most businesses are looking at least 12 months and might take a risk on more than 12 months, but that being rattled right down to 3 months, which is not really a long period of time, is it?
No. Wow. So, I mean, there is lots going on in 2024. There's lots of changes coming in terms of HR. So look out for the description below. We're going to have lots of content on this. I know Beyond HR are working on their content to make sure that there's some insight into all these changes that are coming. So, you know, if there's anything you would like us to discuss or anything you'd like us to go into a bit more depth, then just get in touch and we can have a good discussion about it and make sure that everybody gets the opportunity to implement these things as smoothly as possible. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks everyone for listening today. Please get in touch if you want to find out more on today's subject.
And if you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review.